One, two. I'm sorry. Starting from my right to left, I got County Attorney Chris McKenzie. I got George Weber in Madison District. Got Bob Swartz in Bowling Green. I'm Percy Amana from Mattapan. Got Dr. Carol Horton from Port Roy, and I got Scott Sutherland from Western Carolina. And the staff, I have Greg Pillington, planner, and Lisa Zink. Okay. Assistant planner. I want to say good evening, everyone. Could you please stand for the release of the flag? Next on the agenda, can I get approval of the minutes from the November and December minutes?
I'd make a motion that we approve the November 18th and December 16th minutes.
Second.
Approve and second that the minutes be passed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have an announcement. If anyone here is here for the daycare special exception that was advertised, that case has been withdrawn. On the next agenda, it's just FB-11, 2021. Dr. Horton application. Can I have a motion to defer that to the next meeting?
The applicant has requested a deferral at this time.
That's correct, to allow further time for review.
Thank you, sir.
And that's D.R. Horton, I believe, right?
Yes.
That's no relation to me.
Oh, it's okay.
So I think that would be a motion to accept the request for deferral to your April meeting, the applicant's request.
Thank you.
You need a second?
Second. Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Next agenda is unfinished business, the capital improvement program, staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. As you can see from the memo that was in your packet, if you recall, last month we held the public hearing, but we did not have final numbers from the county administrator. Since that time, nothing has actually changed for us. We still don't have the final numbers, and the talks and budget is still ongoing. So staff is just recommending and has spoke to the county administrator that the planning commission take no action on the capital improvement program this year, because I don't know when. It's probably going to be sometime in between meetings when it's finalized, and it'll probably get to the board before the final numbers ever get to you all. So there isn't any motion or anything that's necessary if you all are comfortable with that.
Okay, so we don't have to defer this now. Okay.
And we can do that, right? Legally.
You'll just lay it on the table. There's no action to take. If you're not making a recommendation, then there's no motion to make.
No motion to make. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Open up the public hearing. Can I have a report, a protocol, please?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. The purpose of a public hearing is for the Caroline County Planning Commission to listen carefully to the verbal expression of position and opinion from the citizens of Caroline County. Public hearings are not question and answer sessions or debates, and all statements should be addressed to the chair. When members of the public offer comment, they need to clearly state their name and voting district prior to making their comments. Applicants or their representative will be allowed 15 minutes to introduce information regarding the matter advertised for public hearing. Persons speaking at public hearings are respectfully requested to keep comments brief, not to exceed 3 minutes, and to address only those issues pertinent to the matters advertised for public hearing. After the public hearing has closed, the applicant or their representative will be allowed 10 minutes to address any issues identified by the public.
Thank you. Could we have a staff report on RSV-01, 2022?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. The applicant is requesting approval of a rezoning from RP to rural preservation to R1 residential on parcel 54-10-7. The adjoining parcels of 54-10-8 and 54-10-9 are zoned R1 in 1985 and are intended to be included on the overall development. The applicant has provided a plan with a yield of 135 lots, 15,000 square foot minimum, subject to the approval of the extension of public water and sewer by the Board of Supervisors, and 3 10-acre lots on the RP portion of the project. A second plan is also provided that shows the same number of 135 lots should this rezoning together with the utility extensions be approved, which provides more spacing and parks. The current permitted by right number of lots is 63 based on a 1 acre minimum lot size with no utilities. 135 lots is permitted only if the Board of Supervisors allows the extension of both public water and sewer to the subject property. This holds true regardless of whether or not tax map 54-10-7 is rezoned to R1. However, it makes no sense to rezone this parcel without permitting to the extension of public utilities. The Utilities Department has stated this development requires a pump station for the sewer system and 54,000 gallons per day of additional water capacity to supply water and sewer to the property. The applicant has proffered a well, which may or may not provide the minimum required additional supply. VDOT has provided comments regarding labeling and adjustments to pavement surfaces. The applicant has made these changes and are awaiting a second review at VDOT. Public Utilities has commented that a pump station and 54,000 gallon per day of additional water supply will be required for approval of the subdivision. The applicant has proffered these items along with this rezoning. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this area as rural preservation and outside of any designated growth area. With respect to public utilities, the plan further states to implement the county's economic development and land use plans require a well-designed public utility system. Such a system must have the proper line sizes, adequate supply, sufficient storage, and pressure to meet the fire flow and general usage that will be required. Based upon recommendations from previous plans, the Caroline Master Water Supply Plan and the Wastewater Plan were adopted in June of 2002, updated in 2016 and 2018, respectively, by the County Board of Supervisors. These documents outline in much detail the location of utility plants and lines, areas that need upgrading, and areas that are adequately served. Compared to private well or septic system, a public water and public sewer supply provides readily available and more reliable utility source than can service larger demands without the need for septic fields or well setbacks. Provisions of well marks and established water lines and fire hydrants also promotes fire protection since residents and businesses can be assured that good, adequate, reliable water supplies are located nearby and easily accessible to firefighters when a community can access public sewer or water. Higher density housing can be provided, which reduces sprawl. Lower and more desirable businesses and employees can typically be attracted as well as a result of the location and the availability of utilities are identified as a growth management tool in the county. Availability of public utilities is also needed to meet the density requirements for the urban development areas, provisions of the Virginia Code. As a growth management tool, public water and sewer are available only in the primary growth area limits. Public extensions are not permitted in rural areas. Map 7.3 identifies the location of the wastewater treatment plant and collection system, while Map 7.4 identifies the location of the county's water systems.
Thank you. Excuse me. I have to make a statement before we get started. Before we open the public hearing, I would like to suggest that we have a workshop prior to the next meeting to get some questions regarding the utilities on this project. It's a lot going on in this RZ-122, and I'm not prepared to make a motion on this project at this time.
I think you can conduct the hearing tonight, and if you want to continue to a work session, you certainly can. But I would proceed with taking the applicant's presentation and the public hearing, and then you can ask any questions and that you might be able to get answered this evening. And then certainly one of your options is to continue this to a work session.
Okay.
I would agree. I would like to hear from the applicant at this time.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Dan Webb, and I'm representing the applicant. I hope to have a PowerPoint presentation for you to look at, but it looks like that was unavailable tonight. But I went ahead and provided a package for you that has a couple of aerial photos from the county's GIS system where I've highlighted the 3 parcels that will be a part of this project, just so that you can see that, we are accessing from a 4-lane divided highway on Rogers Clark Boulevard, and we're in very close proximity to the middle and high schools. Currently, as you see on the GDP, 2 of the parcels are already zoned R1. So I went ahead and did a layout of what a by right looked like based on the current zoning and of the 3 parcels, and I came up with 135 units. And then I took those same 135 units as shown on page 3 of our GDP, just to show that we're not asking for an increase in density, nor are we asking for a reduction in lot size. We simply just want to take what the by right number of units that we currently have with the 3 parcels, and we are spreading those out on the 3 parcels. And I think it just provides a much better project. We're able to space the lots out. We're able to provide additional parks and buffers from the adjacent properties. As far as the utilities go, I guess it sounds like we may have a work session. I have met with the Director of Utilities, and he is in support with my understanding of the project. We have agreed to install a pump station that will have to pump the sewer to the existing gravity sewer line that's located out on 207. There are already existing water system that contains 2 wells. There's concern that there's not adequate capacity within that existing system to provide adequate water for the entire development. And so what we are proffering, a well lot that would be contained on our property, and we wanted to determine that exact location with the utility department. And then we are proffering to contribute $200,000 to the utility system for the county utility system to make whatever upgrades they need. And talking to the Director of Utilities, he said a typical well costs between $50,000 and $100,000. And there may need to be some additional system upgrades in order to accommodate what we're doing. So we felt like, and he agreed, that $200,000 should be a sufficient amount to make any modifications that would be needed to support this project. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
I might have some questions after the public hearing, though, so
Okay.
we can call it back if we could.
No, but I had a question. I thought you were going to ask him a question.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Have a study been made as far as, you're talking about 2 wells, correct?
No, 1 well should be sufficient. to supply the additional water that's needed.
Well, have a study been made? How much water?
What I said is the existing system already contains 2 wells that are in production right now. We would be adding a 3rd well to that system. That 3rd well would have the adequate capacity to provide the additional water needed.
So has there actually been a study done to where what you anticipate that 3rd well amount of water being able to generate on a day?
I mean, it's just very difficult to know exactly what a well in a specific location is going to generate. What we need is a well that's going to generate close to 50 gallons a minute. And in talking with the director of utilities, he felt as though we would be able to find that location. But that's why we've provided 200,000, where typically it could be 50 to 100. For one, well, sometimes you go and you drill and maybe we don't get the capacity, and they deal with that quite often throughout the entire utility system for the county. But in order to determine the exact location, you would hire a well contractor, and they do work with the utility department. They have a procedure that they go out and find fissures in the ground that help determine where they feel like the best location to drill that well. So that's why at this time, without zoning, we didn't want to specify exactly where it was going to go. We were just saying that we would provide one and we would work with the utility department to make sure that we were putting it in the best location that they saw fit. And so we don't anticipate that being an issue.
Okay, but no study's been done at this point?
No study, no.
Okay.
Mr. Webb, if I may, if I'm understanding correctly, the 2 wells that you have now, or that are being processed, they would have the capacity to serve the original 63 dwellings or 135?
I think there is additional capacity within that system. There's just not enough capacity with enough reserve based on the utility department's analysis of what those wells produce to serve the entire 135. So I really don't know the answer to that. If there is enough water in the 2 current wells that are in production, whether that would serve, 63 lots or not, I'm not sure. But what we were saying, we would be willing to provide a site and the funding, more than enough funding to put an additional well that would be of sufficient capacity to handle the site.
Yes, because certainly neither the developer nor the county would want to place 135 households in a position to where they have no or an inadequate water supply. That's not a desire of yours and not of ours. So we do need to look into this a bit deeper to see if the extension is not approved for whatever reason, that there is a sufficient backup for you to rely on.
I agree. I mean, that certainly we need to make sure there's adequate capacity, but that's no different than the capacity for any of the lots that are in other parts of the county. The county is, generally going through and taking wells offline that are not producing what they were, and they're adding wells. So, I mean, that is just part of running a utility system, but I agree. We certainly need to make sure that if we're going to put homes there, that we have the adequate supply to serve them. But there is more than enough adequate supply within the wastewater treatment plant, or, to serve the lots as far as sewer goes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So Dan, it's really a question of the amount of water that's going to be required by the number of houses that are here versus what you now have out there with 2 wells that can provide enough for 65 homes or 70 homes. I don't know. Okay. I guess our problem here is the fact that it comes to us as planners, and one of the things that always worries me, if we don't have all the data that we need to render a decision, which right now we don't, because we do not know how much additional water can come out of a new well. So that's where our problem lies.
I agree. To me, we're dealing with a zoning issue. The way that I read the ordinance, we can do 135 by right now. If you look at the water ordinance, it says that any subdivision that is developed outside of the growth area and zoned R1 shall provide a central water system. And we've gone back and forth a little on that with staff. I'm trying to understand, why we would not be able to extend water. My meetings with the utility director, he says, absolutely, there's no reason that we cannot extend it. When I look at the water ordinance, it says that we shall provide a public water system. A public water system is defined within the zoning ordinance is a system that it's operated by a municipality or the county or a private individual or a corporation that is approved by the Board of Supervisors. So we feel as though that, we have a by right of 135 units. And so what we were trying not to do is to come in and try to ask for more units than we already were permitted by right. We weren't asking for a reduction in lot size. I don't know a number have come in and asked for. We want to do a 100-foot wide lot on a 15,000 square foot. And we're willing to pay for a well or whatever water infrastructure is needed in order to make sure there is adequate supply. But that's, George, just a very technical thing. And, we have to make sure that we design adequate water lines, adequate sewer lines. We need to make sure we have an adequate pump station. And those are all items that we typically deal with during a construction period. And if there is not water sufficient to serve the lots, then building permits can't be issued. So, there are a number of backstops there for the county.
And I understand that.
And as a developer,
and I appreciate that. The trouble is when it comes before the planning commissioners, okay? What comes before us is a question of zoning. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Is this allowed by zone? Okay. Now that's all well and good, but we also have to see all the other things that are out there. And that's why I think this whole thing with the water came up. We realized by zoning, you could do 150.
135.
135, okay, you do 135. That's by zoning. But we also have to watch out for public safety, okay? And in this particular case, public safety is a question of, I need the developer to say, guys, here's the well, and we can pump out enough water out of that well to supplement whatever we can't get.
And that was the intent of the proper.
Okay.
We were not only trying to give money for the well, which is 50 to 100, but we were trying to give additional money if additional upgrades for that system may be needed. There was talk that maybe chlorination or maybe some other things, and talking to the director of utilities that other things may be needed, and we didn't want to burden the county with the additional expense of water line upgrades that we were bringing with our development. So we're trying to make sure that we paid our fair share. I say our fair share, trying to pay for any upgrades that are needed that were caused by our development.
And I appreciate that. I just so you understand, as commissioners, we look at the whole thing, not just one thing. Zoning goes good, but we get no lighting. Zoning goes good, but we got no water. I'm just explaining to you.
I completely understand.
Okay.
The other thing I failed to mention, we are proffering some upgrades to turn lanes on Route 207. We are going to be putting in a right turn lane that VDOT's requiring for our property. But the crossover that's just to the north of this project, we're going to be extending and making the turn lanes longer. They're going to be 200-foot long turn lane and then a 200-foot decel as well. But those were things that VDOT looked at and analyzed, and we agree that that's something that we should do.
Dan, I thank you very much. It looks like you did a good job of analyzing where the problems are, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
But end of the day, we have to make a decision for the people of Caroline County if this is the best project. That's why I'm standing to a workshop.
Yes, sir.
So
I understand that.
So I do my homework.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we all need to do, make sure that we're doing the best product. And I'm available to answer any questions throughout this evening or anytime between now and the work session. And I appreciate your time.
I've got just another quick question. So what we have is a conceptual design from, right now you've got zone, or I guess it's 2 different phases, looks like, and that's where the 135 homes are. that by right you say you could do, right?
So sheet 2,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
And so the other lot is what you're trying to get rezoned from RP to R1.
Yes, sir.
And your intent, this is just a conceptual design, correct?
It is. You mean the intent of the sheet 2, the existing design? I didn't want to come in and just use a density number and say, oh, well, based on 2.9 units per acre, I ought to be able to get, we could have gotten a lot more lots. I actually wanted to show you based on configuration of how those two R1 zone properties are, how many we actually could get. And so we weren't exceeding an actual number instead of a theoretical number.
Okay, so when you do look at it from that theoretical perspective, if you had all three of these zoned R1, what is the total number by right that you could do if it was all three were zoned R1? Have you looked at that?
I had done a layout, if they were all three R1 today and I were going in and I could develop and we were a little over 200 units, say 205, 210, I'd done a layout like that at one point. So,
Okay.
I would say, when we look at the ordinance, you take 15,000 square feet and divide that into an acre,
Yep.
and that comes to 2.9, and that's very difficult to get. So we're not quite there, but I had done a layout, and I would say we're right around 205, I think
Okay.
was the number.
So the upgrades that you're talking about with the well, did you look at that from a perspective of whether it could serve that maximum number vice the 135?
Yeah, I think the improvements that we're talking about would service 205 just as easily as it would 135, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Mhm.
I should clarify though for the commission that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the proper statement includes proper of the GDP, the development plan, and it states that the development will include no more than 135 single-family residences. So I think, it's a great question, but I want you to highlight that he is proffering a maximum of 135 residences.
Yeah, right. We were proffering to make sure we were limiting the number, even though we could fit more theoretically, we were limiting to what we felt like we could already do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's what I thought I heard you say earlier. You were still going to stick at, if it was all three lots, you were still going to stick to 135?
Yes, ma'am, that's our intention. So we want to rezone the third to R1, so then all three would be zoned R1, and we want to stay with the 135.
But we're hearing this correctly, right?
That's right.
You said.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question of staff. When were the first 135 lots zoned? Do you remember? How long has that been?
So the zoning is in place, the lots are not. Right now, it's just two parcels that were zoned R1
Okay.
in 1985.
All right. So
And
135 lots has not been approved or?
No. Right now, as Mr. Webb said, the county code regarding water and the zoning ordinance, we feel that we need to harmonize those ordinances, and we've got the county attorney looking at as well as the comp plan. So hopefully we can get an answer on that from the county attorney within the next couple of weeks prior to the next meeting.
So we don't really know for sure how many houses could go here.
If the water and sewer is extended to the property, then 135 would be the amount of lots that they could do. If water and sewer is not extended to the property, then 63 lots is what they would be able to do.
Okay, I remember that number 63 also.
But
And that would be everybody having their own well, or that would be a community well.
If that were determined to be the result of the analysis, then yes, each lot would have to have its own septic tank and well.
Although the water ordinance doesn't allow you to do that.
Right. The water ordinance says you have to provide water. And so
Okay.
that's where we're having the county attorney look into the water ordinance, the zoning ordinance, and the comprehensive plan.
Okay,
Yeah, and just to, maybe I'm beating a dead horse, but I just wanted to make sure that we feel as though we could by right with an administrative approval, come in today with the extension of water and sewer without any zoning changes, and develop and build 135 lots because of the current zoning that was put in place in 1985. And so we were trying not to exceed number of lots, not exceed amount, traffic counts in any of that.
So this was zoned in 1985.
Yes, this was zoned in 1985, and this is why we're having the county attorney look into the two ordinances
Okay.
for an exact number as to what would be by right.
All right.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Anybody else?
So now you want to open the public comment?
We'll open the public comments. For and against?
Yeah, I would just open the public comment and let
Okay.
anybody who has anything to say come up and speak for up to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Teresa Fields. I'm in the Mattaponi district. I'm adjacent to the property that's at discussion. Allowing the rezoning of this property near Caroline High and Caroline Middle School will only exacerbate the current traffic situation, even putting the turning lanes in on 207 and Devil Street Jump Road regarding the students, school bus, and parent traffic. Traffic is stopped there every morning and evening to release the buses by the deputies. This land is currently rented as farmland by a local farmer. By rezoning this land, it will be a loss of income to the community, to the Coleman Farm. Part of the attraction to Caroline County is the rural setting and farmlands that we have. People travel to see the crops in the field and the wildlife. How will this project be beneficial to the residents living in Caroline County, considering we only have 2 grocery stores that are short on meat and supplies now? That's just going to add to the issue. And it's hard to get a hold of anything in Caroline because we don't have the stores there. And the county budget support the expense of the probable roadway changes, as well as water, sewer, and emergency services to support these additional residents. The schools are busting at the seams now. My grandchildren barely get their full meals and are coming home still hungry. How can we get the rest of this county to get 135 more homes here? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
My
evening.
name is Rita Bell-Mont, AKA Belmonte. I live at 18214 Minor Lane. I vote in the Mattaponi district as well. And with all due respect, I'm in the housing business. So I absolutely appreciate and understand the need for housing. But I love the rural preservation here in Caroline County, Virginia. As a Northern Southerner, born and raised in the District of Columbia, and I'm still Southern, being here in Caroline County has changed my life for the better part of everything that I love. The quiet, I'm a musician, I'm a little noisy. The well water that me and my family enjoy. I'm really concerned about the traffic. I really am. I've 24 years I've been here in this county, and I'm beginning to notice a traffic pattern that's coming down Minor Lane that we've never had before. I'm really concerned about when we get a housing development that's between Lady Smith Road and where you're building. Minor Lane is right in that pathway. How is that going to affect us? The other thing that I'm concerned about is I would love to see the PowerPoint presentation. I would love to have all the details as a public, a member of the public, to have a full understanding of this development And is the housing development, what type of housing are you providing? Is this affordable housing? Are these rental housing units? And the one other thing is this going to impact our current private well and drain field? Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Public hearing closed. Discussions, questions?
Yeah, I do have a few comments. So I've noted the concerns about, the traffic in a rural preservation area. I mean, this is pretty far from our growth area of 95, and the concerns of, adding possibly 200 to 300 more children to our school system. But the main thing for me right now, we're talking about something that was zoned in 1985. So I think the work session is a good suggestion, because I need to know, we're still not clear on how many houses were allowed there. Because there's an area there that apparently already been zoned for housing back in 1985 when everything was different. And but it's unclear how many houses are allowed in that area. So, and how we're going to get water and sewer to that area. So obviously there's going to be some houses allowed in that area, but so we need to kind of clear some things up, in my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with Dr. Horton. One thing that kind of sticks out to me, and I don't know the history on the rezoning in 85. I don't know why it was rezoned in 85 to R1, but it would seem to me that in 27 years, if there was a real desire or intent to develop this property, it certainly would have been done in 27 years. So
More than that, right?
yeah, 27 years.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm also very interested in the cost to the county to extend these water lines and sewer to the property itself. I'd like to have a better understanding. I think a work session is most appropriate as well.
I agree, Mr. Chair. Work session is the right thing to do. If you notice, nobody ever discussed the fact that this development is directly across from the high school. It says unnamed. Well, that's the high school. I don't care what you call it, that's the high school. So I would be definitely concerned about the traffic coming around that area, okay? And Devil's Tree Chop Road over there. It's in front of high school, guys. I don't know how we can control that kind of traffic. Anyway, good suggestion, sir.
Can we have a motion for the work session?
So I think if you want to do this at a work session as opposed to your next regular meeting, then you would make a motion to defer to your work session. Do you have a date in mind?
Next meeting is April 28th. From what I understand, we were doing it before the next meeting. Is
Before
that
the next meeting? Okay, so what I would recommend is that if the motion you want to make is to defer, you make a motion to defer to your work session on April 28th, and that instead of adjourning this evening, you continue this meeting to the work session.
Mr. Bob, take care of that, please.
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we continue this to a work session. What was the specified date?
April 28th? And what time did you want that to start?
At your pleasure.
Did you want to do 5:30 or 5:30?
I think it would be wise to just confirm that the applicant, are you available on that date? Okay.
So be it.
Do you think we'll have the information that we need by then?
The county attorney will look into the ordinances, and we plan on inviting the utilities department to the work session.
Okay.
Okay, so I think there's a motion to defer to the work session on April 28th. And did you set a time?
Second.
5:30.
5:30. 5:30, okay, and to get a second from Mr. Weaver.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries.
So, and I'll remind you, but again, when we conclude this evening, instead of a motion to adjourn, it'll be a motion to continue to that work session.
All right. Thank you.
Or just, I guess, as a planning to put in your head, we will adjourn this meeting at the end of that work session, and then you will gavel into your April 28th meeting. Yes, those are open to the public. The public comment period is closed, but the work sessions are open to the public.
Next item.
Okay, next agenda, RZ-03, 2022, staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant's requesting approval of a rezoning from B1 commercial to B1 for an amendment to the previous proffers associated with parcel 52-A-135. The applicant is requesting the removal of proffers 1B and 1D. In RZ-09-2003, proffer 1B states the rezoning shall apply to the entire 2.42 acres parcel and be limited to the conversion of the existing house to an office, which shall not exceed 2,600 gross square feet. This parcel is located directly adjacent to the Food Lion Shopping Center at the corner of Ladysmith Road and US Route 1. Since the time of this rezoning in 2003, Ladysmith Industrial Park has been constructed to the rear of this property. State Farm Insurance is located directly adjacent to this property, and a planned shopping center has been approved across US Route 1 from this property. The proper statement limits the improvements that can be done on this property to renovating the existing house on the property to an office and does not allow for any new construction. The removal of this proffer statement would allow for the development of this parcel to be consistent with the surroundings. And RZ-09-2003, proffer 1D states, all access to the parcel shall be via the Industrial Park Road now under construction, and no access to the parcel shall be permitted via US Route 1. The existing entrances off US Route 1 are to be removed prior to site plan approval. However, if access is not available from the industrial park, the applicant may install a single commercial entrance off US Route 1 subject to VDOT approval. Since the time of that rezoning, access was not available via the industrial park, and a singular entrance was granted via US Route 1. A site plan was approved in 2020 to construct a road off US Route 1 to serve State Farm Insurance. This parcel and tax map 52D-1-7. Proffer 1D is no longer valid with the approval of this new entrance. In addition to removing proffers 1B and 1D, the applicant would like to add a proffer that provides for an interparcel connection with the Ladysmith Food Lion Shopping Center. In construction of the Food Lion Shopping Center, an interparcel connection was provided for this parcel. Interparcel connectivity is a requirement in the Caroline County zoning ordinance. This proffer would be consistent with the Caroline County growth area planning. Generally, staff believes the requested proffer changes are appropriate. However, staff has identified some B1 uses that may not be appropriate for US Route 1 frontage and will work with the applicant to address staff concerns prior to public hearings.
Thank you. The applicant here to address.
Good evening. I'm Evan Stout, and I would like to thank staff for having me very much. Excuse me. And the main thing is remove the proper.
Have your name, please.
Evan Stout.
Okay.
Remove of the proper of keeping the building as office. I like to develop the property with other tenants in there.
I'm sorry, sir. We can't hear you. Could you either step closer to the mic?
I'm
please?
sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Evan Stout. I want to thank county staff for helping me a lot through this process. And main here is to remove the proper from office only so we can develop the property. Other tenants.
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, question.
Sir, do you have any idea, you want more options rather than simply office?
Yes, sir.
Any idea what options you may be looking at?
I've had one national retailer contact me and then another local person.
Okay. So keeping it in retail or some suitable business, as it were, along the lines of staying in line with the shopping center, is that correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right. Are you contemplating demolishing the existing building and rebuilding, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm here for any questions.
Excuse me. There's going to be no expansion in size, sir? In other words, are you making the new building area larger than the one that's presently there?
Correct. Larger, yes.
And there is no description as to size that I can see on this, unless you guys can see something else that I can't see. No.
Can I have a question of staff too? Because you're saying some businesses may not be appropriate for this area. Is that the very last paragraph
Yes.
on the description you read?
So there's items in the B1 district allowed, such as a truck stop by special exception. And that's not really an area we would want a truck stop. And so we feel it would be appropriate if some uses, such as higher intense uses that might not be consistent with the surrounding shopping centers, that some of those be proffered to be prohibited. And we've contacted Mr. Stout, and we're working on a list going through of the businesses that should be prohibited.
So it kind of seems like that's what we need at this point, you know, since we think it's going to be a retail, but we kind of need a better description of what's going to go there. That's what I'm thinking.
And that's why, Carol, I was talking about the size of whatever we're going to put up there.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, I know the exact location, okay? I live right there, okay?
Mr. Weaver, if I could clarify something on that.
Please.
Regarding the size with the 2.3 acre parcel in the B1 district, and Mr. Stout constructing a road off of Route 1 that will eventually connect to the industrial park, that parcel could be subdivided and into multiple parcels, 0.75 acres or two 2-acre parcels. So it could be subdivided into 2 parcels and have 2 offices on it. If that were taken off, you just left it as office and said that he could have 2 offices there. So it could be subdivided currently today.
But I understand that. But my question is, okay, we're also talking about the possibility of, and I appreciate that road going in there, believe me, okay? We could also do retail in there, okay? And that's my question, okay? We have a shopping center right next to it, okay? I appreciate the interconnection because I think just driving all around back and forth is ridiculous, okay? We should be able to go from one site to the next site. I'm just concerned of the amount of commercial space we're going to be developing right off of school's property, okay? How big is it going to be? And you have not Evan hasn't done this. I have nothing that tells me how big that area over there is going to be developed. That's all I'm saying. I need more clarification. Sorry. Dan, if you got something if Dan's got something he wants to say, it's okay. I'll listen.
And also you said there are some things that, wouldn't be appropriate for the area, and we don't have a description exactly. Obviously, truck stop's not going to be if we could narrow it down a little bit better so that we know, in my opinion, so we know kind of what's going there. And then, you know, if we had a little bit more description is all I'm asking for at this point. Just so I know it's not going to be a truck stop.
Yeah, and I can, one point of clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, staff, but the proffer statement as written right now does not proffer out any uses. So in order for that to happen, in order for you to say, you know, this isn't going to be a truck stop, the applicant, you know, this proffer has to be voluntary. The applicant would have to amend his proffer statement to say, I'm proffering out these certain uses. So as written right now, no uses are proffered out from the B1 district.
Well, I mean, I feel at this particular stage, I would need more information to render a decision on this site. I want to know how big the buildings are, and I have to say, and our legal counsel said the same thing, there is nothing proffered out. And you brought up the fact that it doesn't say we can't do a truck stop. Well, I think we need more, I need tighter reins on what we're going to develop there. Because it's right in my neighborhood. I go into that shopping center all the time. I drive right by this place. And I appreciate the mere fact that we're going to put in a new road in there. And that's going to be a big asset. It's going to help a lot. But I just think right at this particular time, I'm a little concerned about the vagueness of what we're trying to analyze at this point.
We're really just asking for rezoning at this point, correct? To take out a proffer in the rezoning and.
Yes, it's to remove.
Okay, so what, all right, so when does he have to come back?
No, he wouldn't have to come back to put a retail business there unless it was a special exception use.
And he wouldn't have to come back to put a truck stop?
Well, the truck stop would have to come back because that would be a special exception. But things such as retail stores, bakeries, items like that, things that you would normally see in a shopping center, those would not have to come back here. Coffee shops, restaurants.
I mean, it sounds like it's going to be retail, which is probably a, good thing in that area. But staff has put in kind of a statement that some things are not going to be appropriate. And so I need to be able to answer to my constituents, well, what's not appropriate there. And right now, it's a little bit, like, George said, it's a little bit vague to me. But I mean, if we can narrow it down to retail.
So Craig, does somebody have access to the ordinance right now that they can read off what would be allowed? Obviously you mentioned truck stop. I think that's really caused a lot of us some pause. But if there's a way we could read what would be allowed, that may be able to help us make a determination right now. I just don't have that ordinance with me at the moment.
I can bring that up. And I think in the meantime, one point of clarification for you is this is currently zoned B1 commercial with proffers. And what's before you, Mr. Pennington, make sure I'm saying this right, is not an amendment per se to those proffers, but a complete rezoning to B1 with a whole new proffer statement. Is that right? In other words, the existing proffers would be eliminated or replaced with the new proffers.
Yes, however, the new proffer statement is the same as the old proffer statement without 1B, 1D, okay, and then the addition of 1.
I think the clarifying point from a legal perspective that I wanted to make is there is no need to know based on what's before you this evening, you don't need to consider the old proffers because they're being completely replaced with what's been put before you. And I think what staff is saying is it's very similar to the existing proffers with a few tweaks, but sometimes you get these and it's just a proffer amendment. And this is postured a little differently, where instead of amending, you're kind of deleting and replacing with a whole new set of proffers. So I wanted to clarify that. And now,
maybe we need to see the old proffer versus the new proffer. Talk about that side by side then.
All right. There are, I can read them all there if you'd like, but in the B1 district, the business district, there are, let's see, 33 uses by right and 22 uses by special exception. So if you'd like, I can read them all out loud now, or I can circulate this to you after the meeting. It's up to you.
So I'm most interested in the by rights.
By right.
And I would appreciate if you
Sure.
take the time to do that.
The by right uses in the B1, the business district, it's the only business district, are banks and savings and loan institutions, restaurants, drugstores, barber and beauty shops, funeral homes, clothing stores and tailor shops, dry cleaners and laundries, bakeries, libraries, medical offices and clinics, florist shops, retail stores, retail food stores, churches, antique shops and gift shops, machinery sales and service, plumbing and electrical supply with storage under cover, lumber and building supply with storage under cover, new car sales, bicycle and home appliance sales and services, service stations, hotels and motels, office buildings, nurseries and greenhouses, printing, publishing, and engraving services, shoe repair, clubs and lodges, public utilities distribution, seasonal events, and there are some limitations on that, exercise studio, limited brewery, limited distillery, indoor commercial kennel, and vehicle wash.
Thank you.
Sure.
So
And everything else would be, everything else beyond that would have to come through us again through a special exception.
Yes, sir, that's right. So for example, what was on the agenda this evening but removed was a special exception for a childcare facility. And that would have been predicated on the rezoning. But that's a special exception use in the business district, and you can get it with approval.
Thank you.
And the new proffer is to connect to the shopping center, correct? That's on the second page.
Yeah, yes, that's the one that was added, and that's a requirement of the zoning ordinances to have interparcel connections between commercial shopping centers.
Will it still be connected to Route 1?
Yes, it would allow someone from Food Lion to come behind what is now the office and then enter Route 1 further away from the intersection, most likely more safely.
Okay. And the old proffer that we want to get rid of, or that the applicant wants to get rid of,
the first one that they want to get rid of is the one that limits it to only being an office. The second one.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
The second one that they want to get rid of was speaking about access. And since then, the applicant has provided a site plan to build a commercial road off of Route 1 to serve State Farm Insurance, the commercial lot next to them, and his lot. So that one does not apply any longer.
And so it could only be the list that Mr. McKenzie gave us, right?
That is what can go there without coming back to you. The list that Mr. McKenzie read,
Yeah,
all they have to do is come in.
anything else, yeah.
Yep, anything else would have to come back to you.
If you approve the rezoning as submitted. Right now, essentially what's happened is the property, when it was rezoned to B1 originally in 2003, every use except for office was proffered out.
All right. So basically what we're doing is then we do kind of have a list. It's limited to what Chris said.
That's what your ordinance says. The by right uses in the B1 district are those 30 odd uses that I read.
So why is staff telling us some might not be appropriate? Are you talking about the list that Mr. McKenzie said, or are you talking about some things that he would have to come back to us for approval?
We were looking at the list as a whole, and but the special exceptions.
Especially you were talking about the special exceptions. Some of those might not be appropriate.
That's correct, but they would have to come back to you. You're right in that statement.
Okay, I
But
get it now.
It's not inappropriate or necessarily uncommon to proffer out special exception uses as well, just to foreclose that option entirely. And to avoid any question that the property could ever be used for those special exception uses.
So if this was approved, all that could go there is our list on our ordinance by rights.
That's correct.
Okay.
In that case, Mr. President, I'd like to make a
But we
motion.
have a public hearing, I think, right?
I'm in close yet.
Haven't opened it.
Mr. President.
Didn't open it.
Mr. President.
Public hearing is open. Anybody? No?
I have a question. Hi. I would like to know if you have any idea of the business that you plan to put up there.
Unfortunately, so during public comment, it's just an opportunity to speak to the board, and it's not a Q&A. You can make comment, but
Okay.
you want to direct your comments to the planning commission, and they can just be comments.
Thank you. So again, everything that seems to go from Rogers Clark Boulevard, State 207, comes up Lady Smith Road 639, comes past Minor Lane, which my property borders Lady Smith Road on the east and the west side. A lot of traffic is going up and down more and more each day. I'm really concerned about what type of businesses are going to go up that's going to go up there, to understand what type of traffic is going to be coming by. Are there going to be more trucks, delivery trucks? We're seeing a lot more of those lately. So I'm just really concerned because that noise, then it becomes a noise impact thing. And is there going to be another gas station? And hopefully, I'm with the lady over here. We do need another grocery store, so I pray to God that it's going to be a grocery store. Thank you.
Okay, but this is, I guess we're still in the public hearing.
Right.
But this is in the Food Line Shopping Center on Route 1, correct?
Yes.
Just to clarify.
Anybody else? Public hearing closed.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion if I may.
You may.
Whereas the rezoning request RZ 03-2022, case name is Lease to You LLC, appears to be generally consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan and further land development use map. And whereas the public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practices warrants the approval of this request, I recommend that RZ 03-2022 be forwarded to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Now you can have discussion on the motion if you'd like, and then conduct a vote.
What was that?
You can have discussion on the motion that's on the table now, or you can conduct a vote.
Vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
If there's any all matters,
No, sir, we do not have any and all matters at this time.
can I get a motion to adjourn?
No, don't make that motion. Make a motion to continue
That's right.
your
Good to remind us.
April 28th meeting at 5:30 PM.
Second.
Adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
This meeting is continued.
Yeah.
Have what?
I need to haul it.